you see them as a synergy or as a system. And then when you start to think about that, you want to look at when 3, 4, 7 of them are simultaneously involved. You can track that
Michael,
relationship.
I have to, we just had Sheldon Williams to join us. So I put my finger up to ask if we could do like a Hollywood do-over just a moment, because this is very relevant to what we're doing. But look, I just started recording for this week's session. So this is Andrew Williams Jr., and this is our weekly, let me share my screen here just a moment. I think this will be actually session 8 of our weekly ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors and Activists weekly update on our projects that are going forward. I do want to welcome Sheldon Williams. This is session number 8 or 9, but I think this is the first time he's had an opportunity to join us. So Joan, this is Sheldon Williams, and I did want to make sure that you understand that as the founder of the Edfu Foundation, it's actually Sheldon that's been providing us this platform to be able to have these conversations and these discussions. So Sheldon, please, let us welcome you to this small group. This is, I think, a core team. The people on the line right now are the ones that have been here consistently for this past several weeks. But what we're focused on right now is mapping out our plan of action for next year. I wanted to let both Joan and Michael know that the Edfu Foundation is a member of the ECOSOC. And as such, we have opportunities to be the interface between civil society and the overall United Nations, system. As Joan also, Sheldon, she's a member also of ECOSOC. So what I'm hoping, Joan, is that we can find a way that we can increase our participation at various ECOSOC events coming up throughout the year that definitely impact our ongoing projects, ones that we have a commitment in, but also ones that we have a fiduciary responsibility to expand as much as possible. So with that, let me take a step backwards, and Sheldon, let me allow you to introduce yourself and the Edfu Foundation, and tell us a little bit about your background, so we'll know, so the people here will know a bit more about how we can work together to get things done.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate all the great and hard work that you do to assist us at Edfu Foundation. My name is Sheldon Williams. Edfu Foundation is, as Andrew said, a ECOSOC status NGO with the United Nations. We established ourselves to combat structural violence and racism. We work in partnership with our other organization, which I'm the president of, the Conservancy Corps, which is a 501c3 non-for-profit registered with the IRS and here in California. And its missions is to support Edfu Foundation, as well as bridge the gap and do missions that are a little bit outside of Edfu scope. So we run a street pantry. We look to help the environment. That's also part of Edfu's mission as well. But there are several other things that we do with the Conservancy Corps. But the main mission of it is to, aside from moving us to a type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale, it is to also support Edfu Foundation. I myself am a 20-year veteran of the U.S. Coast Guard. And I'm still an active duty member, and I'm also an activist. I've been an activist since I was about age 14. My mom was very involved in civil rights growing up, and my dad was a Black Panther in Brooklyn. And, so we just have a strong tradition in my family of always giving back to the community and trying to make this world a better one than we came into it as. Speaking of United Nations stuff, we do have a couple of deadlines coming up. December 6th is the deadline for parallel events at the CSW 65, which is the Commission on the Status of Women. We will be hosting some parallel events. And so I do want to put it out there if people are interested in participating with us and or that they have ideas that they would like to present at the parallel event, then please bring them forward to Andrew, and we can set up a meeting with the rest of our committees for parallel events. And there are a couple other deadlines which I'll go over at a later point in the conversation. I just don't want to take up too much time, but it's a pleasure being here.
Well, actually, this time is your time, and I'd like to ask you to take up more time because there's something you left out, and that's the Afronaut Collective.
Yeah, so well, as you can see here, Afronauts is our media platform blog. It started as kind of an outlet, right? So I'm a big nerd, blurred, right? A geek. Grew up the American dream, Captain America, comic books and everything. So, doing this work and getting Edfu to the status of ECOSOC was a lot of work. And that takes a toll on you. So one of the outlets we did is we created Afronauts, and we went around to all the Comic Cons, and we started looking at media in the form of diversity, but not just like serious media, but fiction as well, like speculative fiction. So we would go around to the Comic Cons and interview and bring exposure to indigenous artists, and try to just bring light to the work that they're doing and interview them. And we started with a blog and that. But I'm always a person that, like, even though I'm having fun interviewing these great comic book artists and cartoonists and movie stars and stuff, I still wanted to bring some edutainment to the platform. So we would also oftentimes pair the artists and actors and musicians with someone from the educational field or scientific field or social justice field, and interview them both on air. And so we've just kind of continued with that. I enjoy interviewing people, so that is Afronauts, yes.
Well, thank you. That's very relevant to our team. Just to let you know, we do have a growing list of people that are involved with us here. I want to take it out of order, so to speak, to first introduce Colonel Luis Cruz Diaz. Luis Cruz Diaz and I were among the first GlobeCal ambassadors appointed back in 2009. That's where we were first connected. And it's actually from that gym that what's now grown into this ad hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors has actually come about these 10 years later. He was among the first that I recruited because he is in Puerto Rico, and because he does speak English and Spanish, the idea was for Luis to represent all the Hispanophone countries and peoples around the world in their communities. So with Michael Rendler on the line now, Sheldon is the one, Luis, I think that will help us connect the dots in our efforts to bring solutions that we're addressing here locally in Los Angeles and California, as far as the opportunity zones and the promise zones are concerned, to actually connect you with you in Puerto Rico. Now that's important to everyone else on the call, because it's actually the United States Department of Housing and Urban Development that's our interface with UN Habitat. And that is who has developed this new urban agenda that impacts Canada, it impacts Pakistan, it impacts all these other countries. So Luis, I just wanted to, for you to take a moment, if you could, to introduce yourself to Sheldon Williams, the founder of Edfu Foundation.
Good morning to all. It's great to be here again. Sorry I wasn't able to be in the last two meetings. I have been a little bit under the weather, but I'm always glad to be a part of this organization. As Andrew has stated, Andrew and I come back from some time. We have been friends, close friends, and partners in the dealings, trying to create a change in the way things are done. And basically, yes, I understand that through the Edfu Foundation and collaboration with Michael and Richard, and now with you, Sheldon, definitely there, and also the HUD liaison, we are looking at different projects that can be implemented as Canada, Los Angeles, and be replicated in Puerto Rico also. The targets are very fine. Each country and each group within the C4 partnerships have similar projects to be developed in their regions. There are challenges due to cultural, climate, and restrictions as far as government restrictions. But I believe that through the collaboration that we have here and the knowledge of the different projects or POCs that are being evaluated for each one of the regions, I believe that most of the projects have similarities to deal with family, to deal with food resources, to deal with sustainability communities. And that's why we're here. I definitely am eager to continue working with each one of you. Even in my own personal aspect, I know that even with the Canadian projects, if I can be of help, I will definitely like to be invited. But yes, we are in a phase where the POCs have to be developed. The concepts are already there. The technology is already there. Many of them have been proven already locally, as far as inventors, the architects have studied profoundly how the structures and how the concepts are going to be developed. With this COVID-19 and what's happening around the world, we have new restrictions. But fortunately, through the Edfu Foundation, through the TRN TV, through these Zoom meetings, we are able to do a lot more than if we were required to do periodic meetings on site. So I'm glad to be here. We will continue developing these projects, and Sheldon will be getting together, and Andrew later, in order to brainstorm what would be the approach to these projects.
Well, thank you so much. Certainly. We just had Dr. Tamara Omar join us. She's also hosting or conducting a simultaneous meeting. So I'm going to juggle things around and ask if she, Dr. Tamara, if you could unmute and introduce yourself and tell us about the recent event that you just had yesterday. Dr. Tamara?
Yes, hello, do you hear me?
Yes, we hear you. Go right ahead.
Okay,
We don't see you, but we hear you. Yes.
Yeah. Perfect. So good morning, everyone. I'm really glad to be in between all of you today. And I'm Dr. Tamara Alqolaghassi. I'm talking to you from Houston. I'm the president of American Group for Conferences, Consultation, and Training, and vice president for American International Education Federation, and president of American German Organization for Development and Peace. So we all are working, and putting all our efforts to have a better world in terms of all development types, and to be, global one. So we've been doing a lot of activities, a lot of events so far in development projects, all of us. So if I want to talk about the recent one, the one we just had the day before yesterday, it was a conference about, or the title of the conference, it was Promoting Tolerance and Peace. And it was a very, very successful conference. A lot of people attended. All participants has the experience, and they have a lot. They added value to the conference. They submitted some researches and others paperwork where they discuss it in front of everybody through their speeches, and we gave the chance to participants around the world from different continents to in a trial and to make the peace process more on tolerance, more accessible. And we just want to confirm that regardless of any backgrounds, no races, no color, nothing, no cultures, no religion, we have always every nation, all countries to sit in a table and to start a civilized conversations about how to develop nations and develop countries. So that's the main idea with different themes. We had some themes we've been talking about, discussing all these themes. We gathered the academics, experienced people, decision makers, to come up with conclusions and recommendations at the last session of the conference. So we had 4 sessions. We gave the participant the chance to discuss and add the value and their researches and the paperwork. And at the end, we gathered all these, the brief points of each word or speech. And then we came up with the conclusion. And this conclusion and recommendation, we have it now as a result for this conference, where from this conclusion and recommendation, we're going to start working on the development project. We are looking to start development projects in all the fields, in all countries, and working with all people in a society, regardless of their career or profession or certificates. Because the goal here is to make the comprehensive development projects, which is emphasize and consolidate with the principles of sustainable development goals with the United Nations. So we are now in the process of starting developing one of the first projects, and it's going to be in the countries where they're really suffering from crises like Yemen and Libya and Iraq. And then we're going to move forward to the rest of the world. And we started already some projects in Sudan and in Tunisia. And it's really a huge project, and we're looking always to work together, because we one hand will never do anything. It's always teamwork and good spirit, and we have always joined hands to achieve and accomplish this huge noble mission. So I'm really glad of everyone being with us in this conference, and we're open for everyone to collaborate and start working together in this mission. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Sheldon. I just wanted to let you know that I will be introducing Dr. Tamara to you individually. I already sent you over the email and her background. And along with Lewis, I'm asking you to empower us to participate through ECOSOC and the Edfu Foundation with projects that can move us forward, not just on a talking basis, but in a developmental basis where there's real outcome to affect people's real world lives.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. We have, we also belong, as part of our ECOSOC status, we attended the high-level political forum on sustainable development goals over the summer, and we belong to an MGO, which is a major group of NGOs. And so I'm a member of the UN Lobby Group. We have a group that's trying to get the World Marshall Plan supported by the member states. We are also working on an environmental plan. And so I, of course, will make that available to anyone who's coming in through Edfu and wants to help us push our mission as well as the mission of the Sustainable Development Goals. One thing I would like to point out is I mentioned the CSW deadline coming up, but there's also currently going on, there's a Food Systems Summit 2021 that's going on right now. Andrew, actually, I think I forwarded you the email for registration. And I will put the link here, but then I will also—
Yes, please.
This is the link to the actual summit. I'm putting it in the chat. And then once I find the email, I know I've registered. I sent the email for registration to Andrew, and I'm just like digging through my emails now to try to find that same email. And then I'll post the link for that if anyone's interested as well. So of course, yes, Edfu is, there are no I think Dima, one of our board members, Dr. Dima Mahmood, said there are no leader less ideas. So if you come up with an idea, we charge you to
Yes.
see it out. And of course, we're going to help you and assist you. We'll put a committee together. But if you come up with an idea, let's follow it through. Let's get it done. So yes.
Yeah, of course, it's our pleasure always to collaborate in many other projects. So because as a goodwill ambassador, and we've been working in a lot of projects before, and again another projects in a very soon future, and with whatever potential collaboration with you and many others, I believe we could achieve a lot in a very soon future. So of course, it's my pleasure, and I believe everyone will have the same interest here to start working in all the goals that we're having. So I'm really glad that we're talking today and we have the chance to be connected. And thanks for Andrew for letting us, having this opportunity today.
So
Right,
one
thank you
other
so
thing
much,
I'd like to
Dr.
say, so I did find the email. So this Wednesday, November 25th, 13:30 GMT, there will be an open public briefings and food system dialogue meeting. And I'm putting that, this is where you would go to register right there. And I think this is the second meeting. So there's going to be, all in all, I believe there'll be 3 meetings in regards to this. Yeah, the first one was on the 17th. Oh, there was one on the 18th. And so this is the last one. So it's November 25th. It's the last meeting for the food systems dialogues. And
Excellent.
yeah, we'll be putting together a calendar and posting these events. And if people want to participate, we'll make it available. Yeah, but I appreciate all of your help and definitely look forward to working with all of you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. Yes, well, Joan Kerr, I'm not sure what time Sheldon has, so I do want to make sure that you introduce yourself. And now's the time for you joint ECOSOC organizations to pull us all together to support your vision and idea. So Joan Kerr, please take time to introduce yourself.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. I've gotten good at that. So Sheldon, I've heard a lot about your work, and Dr. Tamara, congratulations on your event.
Thank you.
We need a lot of peace and tolerance, that's for sure. Just before I start, we do, my organization called the Foundation for Building Sustainable Communities is an ECOSOC accredited organization as well. And we actually host an annual event. We did not do it this year, called Peacekeepers Day, which was a day that a Canadian actually initiated. And so we actually do it with the Royal Canadian Legion of all things. And we honor the peacekeepers because we feel that there's not a lot of onus that's put on peacekeepers. There's too much onus on soldiers, and lots of awards and recognition, but not enough on peace. And that's what we actually need to have, is peace. It's harder to have peace than it is for war. So, so that's one of the things that we host, and it's been very successful because we collect the stories of the personal experiences of the peace keepers, and now it's become a influencing, but we started it. We didn't initiate the national one. It was getting so big that the Canadian government actually did the personal stories years later. And we started this back in, oh my God, must have been 12 years ago. So for sure, I appreciate the peacekeeper thing. So anyway, our organization has been around since 2003, but before that, we were involved in many environmental action-oriented organizations. Most of them focused on energy conservation, because we thought that energy conservation was an answer to some of the environmental issues that were ongoing. And we had a school that taught at-risk youth in Toronto, Ontario, and that was supported by the Government of Canada. Our program has been adopted into the college system, so that it is now actually an accredited program in the colleges. So we're pretty happy about that. And now actually the Canadian government is giving quite a bit of money for energy retrofitting programs across Canada as a way to deal with climate change. So from 1991 to having it integrated has been wonderful. So our organization have believed in from the very start that we had to look at things from a sustainable way. We did not use the word sustainable development because it didn't exist in 2003, but we thought that many decisions were always made on an annual basis for budgets and boards and all these kinds of things. But we wanted to have an organization that looked at things over a period of time, like 20 years, and how things would change and evolve. And we got that mandate from when we actually incorporated. And it's been a great success because what it did was it allowed us to have a long-term plan because we knew the community was not with the environment. And so it was a daunting thing to do to educate people to say that the environment was as important as economics or anything like that. And we sought to include everyone, that everyone in the community, regardless of what your status or position was as important as the other person, that ideas and concepts were important, not positions. And so that's what we focused on. So we've accomplished a lot. We started a garden. We donate food to the garden. We collaborate with the Royal Canadian Legion, the Government of Canada, Heritage Canada, Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Energy. These are Ontario-based. We're in Canada, just for clarification. We do also work with other international organizations to, I'm on the Climate Smart Youth Network, which is based in Cameroon, but they have programs throughout Africa. So I'm one of the founding members for that. Actually, they're global advisor. I work with the Institute for Engineers as well, have been with them since 2009. And I also am the former chair, just finished my tenure for 3 years in October for the chair as a not-for-profit organization constituency for the internet governance body, ICANN. So Sheldon, I'm also on the not-for-profit MGOs as well. So I do get their emails, and I did sign up for the Marshall Plan one, but I had a conflicting seminar to go to, which I had to go to. So you know how these things happen. But I also participated in the high-level political forums as well. So I'd be happy to discuss some of the things that that committee in particular wants to accomplish, because I'm going to focus quite a bit on helping to be part of the high-level political forum for upcoming year. So I'd love to talk to you with that. And I had signed up for the food summit, which one of the founders actually sent me an invitation. So I'm looking forward to that as well. We don't only focus on food, we focus on what we call social inclusion, which is to tell personal stories of community. We also have a technology, pretty comprehensive technology program that focus on engineering as well, so STEM particularly, but we've taken them all apart and sort of are doing projects around them. We host a program called Do It Yourself Network, which we also work with the engineers and community carpenters, things like that, which are inventors. So the guys that I work with, this is their thing. They say it's inventors, thinkers, tinkers, and stinkers. But I took out the stinkers part of it. So we have a lot of fun with that. That has been one of our sort of, we didn't meant it to be, but it ended up being one of our flagship programs because of the response that we got. We'll be starting in January, we'll be having a pretty amazing educational platform that will be launched by spring 2021. On food. Obviously, I'm passionate of food. I love food, but technology, capacity building, and social inclusion. So that's our go forward plan. And we're partnering with many, many organizations, because I think the takeaway from the last 19 years that we've done is that it's such a huge problem and can be daunting if you don't incorporate other people to help you implement it. I think that's the thing that has been missing. And why reinvent? We don't believe in reinventing, so just work with people who are doing it. So that's where we are. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Joan, very much. In the chat, I've also put the fact that it's the Edfu Foundation. They have an events page. So I'm encouraging all of us to filter that information to me directly. I'll champion that, Sheldon, but they filter the information to me. Then what happens is that we're working with the ACETeamVillage.org. They're based in Kansas City. They're kind of like a sister organization to this Encounter think tank that was begun back in 2012. They spun off Encounter Kansas City. And so they're very much a part of our ecosystem. Just this past 6 weeks or so, when we were having this project with the country of Bermuda, where every Friday we have a 1 hour charrette of elders, so to speak, here in the United States and worldwide, and then with the students in Bermuda. So ACE Village stepped up to provide an ecosystem where the link on Sheldon's Edfu page goes directly over to ACE Village. That's where they have a virtual ecosystem. And there, Joan, you can find that they have free curriculum for students up to K-12, and also it's available free to educational systems. We have we have students in Ghana that are participating with that. And just this past weekend, another of our internal stakeholders, Michelle Farrell, she's an educational consultant or educational director for the Universal Hip Hop Museum. She's also a teacher here in Los Angeles. So she shared this with two of the principals that she's working with. So when school comes back on December 4th, we hope to expand this project here in Los Angeles as well. So I just wanted to make sure, Joan, you know, that's available as part of our outreach and our collaborative going forward. And it addresses just what you said, the fact that we all need to not reinvent the wheel, but work together. So as Michael Rendler knows, I've always been a champion of letting us all identify who we are so we can be able to reach each other and identify what we're doing, and then further segment what we are able to want to accomplish. And we can automate a lot of this material. So Michael, I know your time is always very short and valuable, but I wanted to make sure I had a chance, Michael, to allow you to introduce yourself and perhaps give us your thoughts on how this is all coming together.
Yeah, can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. Thank you,
Yes.
Andrew, for setting the stage or setting the table so carefully. Very, very awesome. And nice to meet you, Sheldon. I think everybody else on the line I've met several times. So I'm not that great at being brief, but I'll do the best I can. So
well, just be thorough, if not brief. Just be thorough, if not brief.
Okay, well said. So this project that's being put together, this C4 project, is an attempt to actually look globally at a conversation Andrew and I have been involved with for at least 10, 12 years here in Los Angeles specifically. And my focus in Los Angeles has always been the capability of virtualization and simulation. And when you get to real estate and you get to the physical built environment, you have a potential, what's called a tipping point right now with our youth to allow them into a conversation that they were clearly removed from based on our methodologies of actually delivering our physical built environment. So I, as an architect, am very interested in what does this look like when you're 15 years old? What does this look like when you're 19 years old in terms of your empowerment model? And so I've developed this concept that is an interoperable data model around spatial information technology. That's a lot of words, but in essence, what it is to try to do what you're talking about doing sociologically and culturally, to where does that fit physically in our physical environment, and recognizing that nature as a system took several billion years of evolution to actually sort out this complexity, sort out this equation, if you will. And now we're at this nexus, or we're at this tipping point where we can actually empower youth, exactly like Colonel Diaz said, across these different jurisdictions to work synergetically. And synergetically means to work together. So using virtualization and simulation, you share data structures. And so, I get this look on a lot of people's face, like, what is he talking about? Well, we actually have demonstrated with a group in Kansas City recently, within the last couple months, Mr. Wells' Esteem Village, through showing students how to use these tools. 7th and 8th graders are now presenting to city administrators what a whole system looks like using geospatial technology. And the response from the mayors, 2 mayors now, is, oh my, why aren't we running our cities like this? Now, again, I'm going to back up. This is Andrew and I talking over 10 years and trying to get administration, government to think like this, up to the federal government, up to HUD, but having little penetration, meaning, well, that's their idea. But now that they've seen, quote, I love the POC, proof of concept, that the student actually can understand how to do this. We've made huge penetration into us in Los Angeles, where we have close to 170 $170 billion to spend in Joan Kerr's model over the next 30 years around sustainability. We need to have an interoperable model to look at these relationships. And so we built out mapping systems, we built out curriculum, we being E7 Architecture Studio, based on a $30 million project that was built for the Los Angeles Community College District, which was the proof of concept that took us about 10, 12 years to put together, built into what's called an ERP. And an ERP stands for Enterprise Resource Planning Tool. So this is a military construct, meaning that how they manage all of the military bases, how they manage all the water systems, how they manage the ecological infrastructure of security and safety, uses these kinds of tools. And the crux of the problem is we cannot get to this definition with our existing population, because we don't have a population that understands what I'm talking about. So by building it at the youth level, it will mature into, oh, we can apply these, what some might label militaristic tool set, into peacekeeping, collective responsibility to what sustainability is. And to connect the last dot that that Andrew is talking about, is how does this connect to the C40 cities around the world that are adopting this sustainability design guidelines, development guidelines, and how does it connect to this new urban agenda? And the last piece of it, which is the one William and I are working on very diligently right now, and was the success of the E7 Architecture Studio, is where is the employment opportunities in building this, so that there's what we call relevancy. So we can be academics and we can be theoreticians, we can be activists, but when you're trying to help your family feed themselves and house themselves, you have to create relevancy. And that comes to a term that's well documented now called new ways to work. And so this idea of having relevant education is not to say that this virtualization simulation happens in a video game. This virtualization and simulation is the precursor to how our cities are going to evolve. And if we want our cities to evolve, as Joan has outlined, healthy, sustainable, clean, environmentally friendly, then we need to simulate that. We need to project that. And the way we're going to project that is through a curriculum of understanding. And that curriculum of understanding is a VCAP, which stands for Virtual Community Action Planning, recognizing that we're not going to come in and clear cut cities. We're going to evolve cities. And we're going to evolve cities by what are called interventions, which Colonel Diaz has just outlined are POCs. We're going to have these projects, proof of concept, how sustainability and inclusion and the responsibility associated with that can actually be put into place. And we have the backing of a lot of people that see what has been done, what could be done, and actually what is being done with little or no resources. So once the proof of concept is completed in the next couple years, this will become what's called normal operating procedures. This has come out of HUD, and it's in this term called envision centers. And that word vision is the idea of seeing your future, and seeing your future in this simulation space has just so much potential. And we already have demonstration here in Los Angeles, and we have a very active group looking at how do you align this to the sustainability development guidelines with this $150 billion build out that's going on in Los Angeles right now, to avoid just a gentrification project, to actually look at what a genuine empowerment mechanism could be. So as an architect, this is where I sit. This is what I'm interested in. This is what I'm working on. And I'm really feel blessed to be part of the C4 group to take the model internationally through the work of Andrew Williams and have legitimate discussion of best practice. And I think that's what we're trying to do, is figure out what best practice is here Sunday morning in Los Angeles. Thank you very much.
Michael, real quick, I'm sorry. So like, I don't know if you heard it, like, so one of the things that we try to do with the Conservancy Corps is help us move to a type 1 civilization on the Kardashev scale. So I'm always interested in like technology and science. And so what you're describing is similar to like connectography. Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, I'm very familiar with the Khan Academy. No, I'm not.
No, connectography.
No, I don't know that term.
Okay. Yeah. It's so basically it's like reimagining like a village or a society, whereas you don't necessarily need to be in the same space. You can have virtual spaces that help bridge those gaps when you're not in close proximity, you're still can have like a virtual village, like you're saying. But yeah, I'll put it in the chat.
So the idea is for sustainability, there's resilience, and inside resilience is their single source of truth. And single source of truth means how do you collaborate across all these different agencies that actually have jurisdiction and responsibility to the paradigm that's being discussed. The only way to do that is to have an interoperable data model. And to have that, you really need to understand how to build data, manage data, sustain data. And what you need to do is you need to put that in the use hands. So in 5 years from now, that 15-year-old has a paradigm, has a model that they can understand. And this is really, it wasn't my idea. This is Obama's administration talking about what open data means and how open data works. And so now we have data models, but if we go to places like Kansas City, there is no public data model. There is no public information. So when we do these large public works projects, water projects, storm drain projects, renewable energy projects, smart grid projects, they're all top down. They're all big engineering corporation mentality. When we know from our project we did from 2003 to 2015, there's a workforce element in what's called the operational model. And so we need to look at the data migration from concept to operation. And what does that look like? And the cities, the C40s, are the testing ground. So this is the space where this is being tested out. And Los Angeles, with our current administration, is very active with how this can be put together. And so our little group in Los Angeles is saying, these are where the neighborhood councils fit in. This is how the neighborhood councils conduct what are called community impact statements. This is how they understand their engagement with what's called PLUME, planned use management. And we feel really confidently that we will build a sustainable model with our goals, as Joan said, 30 years into the future, because we are already modeling that existence.
Yeah, so hi, it's Joan. Thank you for answering the HUD. I was wondering what that was. So going forward, so there were a couple of questions in the chat. One is collaboration for modifying women's empowerment movement. I don't know exactly what you need, Mariam, but we did do, our organization did do a project called Women's Open World Empowerment Movement back in 2004. And we won the UN Civil Society Award, and we want to resurrect that project because it had a lot of components to it, including education, entrepreneurship, and technology. So the STEM, we weren't using the word STEM at the time, but technology in terms of engineering. So that's something we want to revisit if you want some information about that. What I really like about what we're having this conversation, and Andrew, I really have to thank you, first of all, for always sharing information and always being open to talk to people. I mean, I find that I'm very fussy and sensitive about people who lead organizations and they dictate what you have to do, but you're always open. So I just want to say that for the record. But I'm really excited about this group because I think that there is such an openness to discuss and to solve, look at ways to solve what we're doing today. And so I really want to work and do something. And I think data collection is a very important component that's sometimes forgotten because it allows you to analyze what's happening and change, because you need to always be evolving. I honestly think that if you don't have a program that you're evolving because of what's happening, not to change your goal or your impact, but to change some ways because of whatever happens, like COVID, then you're not a strong organization. So I think that, for example, Sheldon pointed out about the Food Summit today. Maybe we should start to collect some of our resources that we can just put them on a page where we can all access them. Because I hesitate sometimes to write emails because I'm thinking, I get so many emails. I spend so much time reading and responding to emails. And so I hesitate sometimes to send emails to share things because I'm thinking, oh my God, you know, so I think that's one thing that I would recommend that we do so we can share things.
Something like a shared calendar or?
Yeah, something that we know it's there, we can just put it on and everybody knows that it's happening so that we start to share things. I think that's a big thing. So that's one of the recommendations I have.
Joan, can I recommend a G Drive, a folder where we can link all ourselves in a shared space, and that way we can, all the links and PDFs and presentations can be stored in that G Drive folder where, you know, one of us can create it and have it as a shared device. And that would be our repository for all the documentation.
Yes, I think that's an excellent, if everybody's okay with G Drive, there's also a Dropbox if you want that, you know, there are different ones, but yes, that's just to do it is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I'm definitely all for it. I think G Drive will probably be the most, the simplest, because I think everyone's pretty much got a Gmail account, right? So.
I've tried
So
Dropbox in the past.
who's going to champion? So who's going to champion that?
I've-
Is that you, Louis?
I'll do that.
Okay,
I'll create a
okay.
drive folder for the, Joan. Yes, go ahead, please.
No, that's good. I was going to say I would do it, but you go ahead. That's great. Thanks.
So I'd also like to say,
It's a collaboration.
so I'd also like to say, Joan, yeah, I would definitely, I know Andrew says he's gonna introduce us later, but I would like to, you know, with the CSW 65 coming up, maybe we could do a joint collaboration on a parallel event or something, and we could bring Mariam in as well. And, you know, maybe we could, some of these topics that we're talking about with, you know, Colonel Luis, Diaz, and Michael, we can doing a parallel event on those as well. I know STEAM is a very big part. Last year we did Black Women in Tech was a big parallel event that we attempted to host before you know, it was shut down. We actually were able to do one of our events at the Nigerian embassy. We did go to New York. We didn't realize like the craziness of it at the time, but we did go. We did attend the first day of CSW 64, and then the UN was pretty much shut down after like Tuesday, and we held our event at the Nigerian embassy. But our other 4 events, which one of them was Black Women in Tech, STEAM for the Future, that was, we had to cancel. So we're looking at putting that back together again. So yeah, I would love to collaborate.
Yeah, I'd love to collaborate, but you know that we collaborate with the community at large, right? Like it's not focused on any South Asian or Africans or North. It's just open. You know that, right?
Right. Yeah, and that's not an issue. I was filling a space because CSW
I just wanted to be clear.
CSW 63. I didn't see any events that I saw. New Zealand women in tech. I saw Muslim women in tech. So last year,
it's
I
good.
figured I wanted to fill a space and give people an opportunity to be represented, right, in that space as well. So,
which is what it should be. So if that's what it is, and we can, and it sounds good, and it can be implemented, that's fine too. I'm just saying overall, we're open to the community. That's all.
Oh yeah, and so is Edfu. I mean, everyone comes from Africa. We're all. I mean, to me, there's 2 real types of citizens in this world. There's corporate citizens and indigenous citizens, right? You're either a corporate citizen that deals with, you know, watching the markets and capitalism and dealing with that, or you're an indigenous person who's just like trying to live your life in your community. I don't know if you know, if you check out our page, we have spiritual work that we do as well. We've done, you know, we went to Florence, Italy, and we let people there know that they're indigenous well, because before the church, which is the first major corporation, right? Before the church, you had indigenous people in these areas, right? Even if you were in England, Scotland, Ireland, Italy, Spain, there were indigenous communities, right? And they were just, the concept of them, it was just different to what we see as indigenous today, right? So all people, to me, I see indigenous and corporate citizens. And so Edfu is open to everyone. We're just trying to eliminate structural violence and racism, right? Which leads to a whole bunch of issues. And so that's also why we introduced the Conservancy Corps, to bridge the gap for people who might think that we are secular and only dealing with Black issues. Yeah.
Well, the great news, Sheldon, is that it's 10 o'clock now. So we finished our scheduled hour. And so now we're open to having whatever discussions you want, or you can follow up on some other meeting. But I wanted to thank everyone for at least coming here for an hour. That's what our commitment was. So now you're free to leave, or you're free to stay. Ball's in your court.
Yeah, so these meetings are every Sunday, correct? And you're sending out the agenda. I did see that you sent an agenda, Andrew. When is the agenda going out? And if we have something we want to put on the agenda, when do we get it to you?
Hello, good evening.
Well, hello, good evening. How are you?
I'm fine. And I have one concern that I'm also online from 1 hour, but you didn't invite me to talk for, say hello to everyone. So
Mariam, please excuse me, and you're doing just the right thing. The ball is in your court. Yeah, just to let you know, Mariam, I'm sorry, Sheldon, Mariam is here
no
as
problem.
part
No
of our,
problem. I just want to say hello to everyone because now it's a routine for us on Sundays to see each other and talk about different issues and planning and different programs. I'm waiting for my turn, but you didn't call me for the talk. Anyway,
now's your
thank you
turn,
so
Joan.
much.
Go right ahead. Now's your turn, Mariam. I apologize.
Okay. Basically, I want to discuss one thing, which is we are going to plan on March 2021. This is Women International Conference on Women Development, and the theme of the conference is Women of 2030. So being a part of SAM's Tukileme and being the part of C4 group, this is my request to Andrew that we need some collaborations and we need some partnerships for this conference. And being head of the initiative, this is my request to you also that kindly guide us. How can we promote our this conference and how can we, get some collaborations from globally? So basically, my talk is related to this conference today because we are starting this planning and all this, making agenda and designing a schedule and so many other things. And because we are having a very good companies in C4 group, which can support us in IT and technology and which can support us in planning the, best agenda, which we can present internationally in this conference. So being a learner, very, very basic learning, because all of you are very good, you all of seniors having very good experience, very strong platforms you have. So I'm the basically learner of this platform. So this is my request to everyone that support us for this conference, which we are going to conduct in 21 March. Thank you so much.
Well, Mariam, yes, and yes. Let's start there. But further than that, we do have Dr. Tamara Omar, who was on earlier. She is an expert at doing events and conferences. Also, we have Meenakshi Shani out of India, who's also an expert at that. So I would say, yes, the important thing for you to do is to just perhaps make your presentation or request in the form of an email, if you could, and then I can share it among our team, and then we can follow up on a weekly basis.
Okay, sir. Okay, I will share in next meeting on Sunday. I will make a short presentation on this conference and I will share with the crew overall. And then I will put request to all relevant persons also to take in their consideration. Thank you.
Oh, you're very welcome. Just to let you know, there's a new entrant here, which is TRN, but that's just me on my other phone. Lady Alicia Hamilton represents TRN, and so I'm here representing her as well.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so again, we've done our due diligence. We've put in our hour. Is there any other discussions that would like to be take place or set it up for? Very well.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I gotta go. I have another meeting that I have to hop on in a few minutes. And but again, I appreciate this. And like I said, Andrew, what for the agenda? We just need to get it to you by Saturday if there's something we'd like to put on the agenda.
Well, the sooner better. We also have an Eventbrite page, so I update the Eventbrite page as we have additional information that comes in. So far, we haven't been using it. All people have registered there, but we will be becoming more active in getting our schedule planned in advance. But confirm right now that you would like to have some time next week for your presentation. Well, Sheldon, is that correct?
No. So I'm a person that likes structure, so I know and I want to come out of a meeting with takeaways. So like one of the things is, so we're going to be creating a Google Share Drive, right? We have this meeting every Sunday. Is there a certain date we should all like think in our minds to put to get that information to you? So an agenda, because I would like to have the agenda before I come to the meeting. So if there's something I want to add, then I don't waste anyone's time. If not, I'll just sit back and listen, right? So as you would just say, like by Thursday or Friday, we get our agenda items to you.
Well, I'd like help from both Joan and Lewis to coordinate that, because I'm very good at setting up appointments, very good at keeping track of them.
Definitely, I was looking at the links. Are we going to be using Eventbrite more than the regular scheduled meeting calendar? Because I was trying to log into the regular C4 home list link and I was not able to. I had to go back to the WhatsApp chat link and backtrack to the Eventbrite in order to be able to log into this group. So,
well, in the first place,
I did
that
have
homeless webinar was just a one-off. That was just something that Lloyd set up for that one time. But the Eventbrite for this event is pretty much permanent. It's just there. So I was just suggesting that we use this to further update our activities going forward. This is for our weekly meetings.
Mhm. Okay.
Hey, Andrew, this is
Joan,
Michael. Oh, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I'll be contacting you later to discuss the G drive.
That's me and Sheldon.
I just want to put this, in a term I just wrote down, strategic plan. And I think there's a strategic plan that the C4 could have and could look at how that, and one of the pieces of the strategic plan, I appreciate it's a global initiative, but in the state of California, we have some executive order around biodiversity and having a legitimate conversation of what that looks like and how that gets put together moves up to Mr. Gerald Bennett being interagency coordinator for STEM, because it's in this interagency concept that we would be able to hand a model from California to the federal government around what this biodiversity protection means. And quite candidly, it's around the most valuable resource the state of California has, which is its beauty and its natural setting. And so respecting that executive order, I think the same as in Africa. I think the same as in India. I think the same as in Puerto Rico. These natural systems and the restoration of these natural systems are the most valuable asset to these communities. So how the C4 strategically can carry these messages down from the United Nations to our state capital would be a strategic plan that I think we should be thinking really carefully about.
I think we should prioritize that. And just to let you know, Sheldon, this is another example of how I'm reaching out to the Edfu Foundation in Northern California, to us here in Southern California, to represent the entire state of California on a global scale. But what Michael mentioned about this, the Governor Newsom's biodiversity plan, it actually aligns with the United Nations 2021 through 2030 biodiversity restoration, decade of biodiversity restoration. That's where Joan comes in. That's where even Mariam comes in. That's where the rest of us come in. So my challenge or my ask is that we find ways to create a strategic plan that addresses the global issues and the local issues. Localizing the solutions is the outcome I'm trying to accomplish.
Yeah, so it's Joan here. So Michael, Sheldon is an ECOSOC accredited, his organization is an ECOSOC accredited organization. And one of the things that, I'm not speaking for you, but certainly in our case, you can interact. It gives you the opportunity to interact with your political, in our case, it's not political, but it's the bureaucrats that has to implement the Sustainable Development Goals from the UN. So there's every country that signed on has an infrastructure that deals with the Sustainable Development Goals. So they would be a good organization to start, because they can do the political process where then we come in and do the projects and work with them. So that would be a really good way in for starting. And Sheldon would be a good organization in terms of having the status.
Yeah, that's why in my little talk, I talked about the C40, because the C40 is a spin out in Los Angeles, is one of those 40 cities. And this is all in this new model, if you will. And so now the state has said, well, we want these divisions within our state government to be in direct alignment, which gets to my interoperability model. And that's why I think the state of California, with the carbon tax credits and what are called the TCC grants that we're working on in Los Angeles, transformational climate communities, these are mechanisms to actually start to build this intersectionality. But we seem, through our grassroots team, having trouble to make that connection that Andrew's outlining, from the grassroots, boots on the ground, local neighborhood, up to these policies at the state level. And so strategically, I think the C4 has to say, okay, we'll go get a bigger entity like the United Nations to say, well, what is the C4 group talking about? And if that goes up through the Edfu Foundation, fantastic. But at the end of the day, we've had these conversations in different places at different times with different participants in the state of California, because this TCC project is all across the state, and all the legislation that's being written right now around climate change and around environmental science, Assembly bills, Senate bills, are targeting our underserved communities, which is where the systemic racism is bred, if you will. And so that concept of how we bring this together is really, really critical, and time is of the essence.
Yeah, so I would like to say I totally agree with Joan. We would love to assist. So one thing that I do love is action. Like, I don't like to just continually talk in circles about things. So like, if you have a project that's ready to go, and we can, like Joan said, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, right? So like, if you have a project that's ready to go and there's ways that we can assist you and help move that forward, I think that's my purpose for being here, right? Like, let's all help each other move our projects forward and get these sustainable development goals tackled, right? So if you have a project that's ready to go, let's sit down, let's talk how we can collaborate and actually bring fruit to bear, right? So
look in your email, Sheldon. 48 hours ago, I sent you the draft. It has a budget. We were going to talk about it yesterday, but we haven't had a chance to. So maybe later today we can follow up with that. But looking, Joan, if you look in the chat, I put in the Young Person's Guide to the Sustainable Development Goals. That is an initiative that came out of AHIABGA up in Canada, as a matter of fact, with the United Nations. So Michael, the dot that we're trying to connect has to start with the grassroots, and that begins with the youth. The youth have to understand what their human rights are, and they have to understand what the Sustainable Development Goals are in order for them to embrace it. Just as what you did there on the campus of the Los Angeles Community College District, when you brought in those community college students to create this $10 billion geospatial development, a geospatial database, right? So all I'm suggesting now is that we're close enough to have the tools at our fingertips. Now the challenge is just to follow through and plug in the last quarter inch. So Joan, if you could take a look at that Young Person's Guide, I've included that in the Ad Hoc International Advisory Board of Goodwill Ambassadors. The presentation that I put online includes the first 4 pages of introducing the United Nations Global Compact, which is a poor man's way to get involved with the United Nations, right? But what it does is, if with the power of numbers, I'm looking for us to have a major impact and do much what President Trump did, which is get publicity to do the work of paid advertising. But we have to first create the reality that we want to bring the news to take a look at. And we have all those elements within our reach right now today.
I just want to respond to what Sheldon said. This is the 8th meeting. There's 8 hours of this conversation. And in those 8 hours, we framed this whole paradigm into actual projects that are happening in Los Angeles. We spent 3 hours yesterday in a webinar around the project being deployed. I've had the California Energy Commissioners in discussion with people from HUD about this model that's in progress. The reality is the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And because of that, we're not able to move forward with the legitimacy of our projects. And so that needs only one thing: exposure. So once we have exposure, then we can have repair. But right now we can't get exposure. And that's where we are. So we want to address that. The projects are already happening. We have these TCC projects. We've already done presentation. We've already met with the leadership, but we need to take it to the next level. And there's only one reason there was a $30 billion project done at the Los Angeles Community College, because we went to Metro. So we had to leave our agency, go to a larger agency. We had to leave Metro and go to the federal government. We have to leave the federal government and go to the United Nations. This is where we are in terms of legitimizing what we're talking about here on Sunday. And so now we have you, Edfu, as a UN SOC, and I looked up what that was. I was very impressed. And now I'm sharing with you that to talk legitimately to the governor of the state of California, who gave the executive order, to understand what this model is a strategic move that needs to be made. And it's so ironic for me that Andrew is here talking about ecumenical models with someone in Houston, when Andrew and I talked 3 years ago about ecumenical models for Los Angeles with the Church of Scientology. And Andrew was an ambassador trying to coordinate that interfaith conversation here in Los Angeles. So what we did is the exact same thing. He went to a higher level of conversation to bring that piece back into Los Angeles. This is a strategic plan we're putting together. So I want to share that with you. We're not just talking, we actually are doing work and delivering product.
Yeah. And so I would like to say, is there a way that, like, when you and I can meet, we can have a brief and we can find out what exactly need to move forward, so that we can lay out next steps. I do, we are fortunate enough that I do occasionally have the ability, and I have met with Congresswoman Barbara Lee, who is very influential. And I'm in the Bay Area, who's very influential in the Bay Area, and does have the ability to get us in the rooms with those people, like the governor and stuff that you're talking about. So perhaps, Andrew, can you help us facilitate setting up a meeting so I can get a clear understanding of the projects, what's needed, and we can move forward with trying to work on that.
Make that happen, I'm sure.
Oh, not only that, but we've just had a few other people to join us, Michael.
I know, I understand those few other people, and I thank them for coming, but one thing at a time. Like, so
yes,
can you handle that? And
yes, I'll do that today. And how soon would you be available? Can we do that today or tomorrow?
I'm available today. Yes, I am. And then, obviously Tuesday and Thursday, I'm unavailable.
Today? What time
I would say around 3 p.m. Yeah.
Michael, can we do that at 3 o'clock today?
Hey, fantastic.
Okay, done.
I
Thank you very much.
the email with the link.
Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Sheldon.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I do have to go to another meeting. Greetings to everyone who just joined, and I'll see you next Sunday.
Yeah,
Take care.
Give me the recording of this as well.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Yes, sir. Assalamu alaikum, Mafadal Mizra, although you may be praying. Also welcome Andre, and also welcome Stephen Chambang. Everyone here, just to let you know, I've invited Stephen Chambang. I just met him yesterday, but he has a very intriguing scenario. So Stephen, I know you said your time was very busy. Would you like me to first introduce the people here, or would you like to introduce yourself first? I'll leave it up to you, Stephen. The ball's in your court.
First of all, everybody hearing me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm clear to hear. Okay.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Andrew, and also the team and the host of the show. My name is Stephen Chambang. I'm originally from East Africa. I've been here for 25 winter, but I hate winter. So I come from the country about 110-degree hot. So 110-degree hot. So when I came here, so the winter is so difficult for me. Let's just beginning. I have a mission. It's called East African Community Development. My mission for this organization, I'm building the bridge between Africa and United States in the worldwide globally. I work in Kenya and South Sudan and Uganda and Ethiopia. I speak 5 languages in the regions. I've been in those continents. My interest for humanitarian, we have many refugees in Uganda and Kenya and Ethiopia and South Sudan. So the mission I have, I supporting 82% to empower the women in those refugee camps in East Africa. So that I want people to join me. We can build the bridge together. And also I invited our brother and sister and come to motherland in Africa. So this is something I will share together with you. I have an interest of connected with many of the government. I work with many of the leaders from Washington, D.C., connected with the people from home. So I welcome anybody to contact me, and then we can join the team together. So just me is Stephen Chambang here from the state of Iowa. And also I'm working with Iowa State University and for economic and food and security. So I've been working with them for 3 years. So, and also we have one of the university from Ethiopia is called Almaya University. So next week, and then we will sign an MOU from Iowa State. And hello?
Yes, we're here, Stephen. We hear you.
Okay. So I'm really interested of anybody and then to be joining the foundation and then work together. So thank you so much for inviting me to the meeting, Andrew.
Certainly. I put into the chat your contact information so people can reach you directly. However, I would like to let you know, one of the reasons I was excited about meeting you yesterday is because I know that we have people on this call right now with an interest in particular in Kenya, where it is, in fact, as I understand it, the Nairobi University that also has a university satellites in Uganda and Tanzania. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to invite you here, Stephen. So I really do appreciate your taking the time to join us today. The person that I was,
thank you. Yes.
Yeah, the person that is championing that, his name is, the person who's championing that is Mufadal Mirza, but his audio is not connecting right now. But I do hope that he can join us soon and we can speak about that directly. Although perhaps, I'm not sure if Mariam, if you could speak to that, but yes, I wanted to just make sure that you are connected here, Stephen, with people that are working in the same areas that you are. So thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
So someone just joined us from 202. It only has a phone number, but not a name. So if you could introduce yourself, I certainly would appreciate that.
I'm Chris Sangster, and
Oh, yes,
I'm a
Chris.
management consultant in DC. How are you?
Okay, at least fantastic. Thanks. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Certainly. Chris, I'll send you an email separately. There's activity happening now right in the Maryland area, which is, I think, close to where you're living or working. And
Yes, both.
Yeah, so it does directly impact you. I'll make sure I get that out to you in the next day or two. I'm glad you called in to remind me to include you on that link.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, again, for the rest of you, as a matter of fact, Chris, we have decided on a weekly basis, we're going to take this period of time to make presentations. We had none previously scheduled. So we're just kind of winding down here. If you have anything you'd like to contribute or add, now is the time to do that.
Oh, no, I think I'm going to be sufficiently effective by getting your follow-up notes. And I'd just like to, again, thank everybody for their contribution up to this point.
Excellent. Thank you. Okay, I will share with this. I think I can share my screen here. There is an event coming up next Friday on the Saturday after Thanksgiving. It'll be a virtual event, but it will be hosted in Bermuda on Friday. And we'll be hosting an event here in Los Angeles on Saturday. We're calling it the Thanksloving Weekend. This is a continuation of a launch we did in 2018. And the idea at that time and this time is that rather than focus on perhaps what some would call imperialistic visions of pilgrims and discovering a world that already existed, let's take another look at that and just have a Thanksloving session where we do just that. We forgive ourselves for anything that we've done up to this point, and we forgive ourselves for anything we might do in the future, and we love each other and we work together to have a better world. It's a very simple concept, but it's the students in Bermuda that inspired this most recent activity, because unfortunately they went through a series of cycles of gang killings in Bermuda. And it's a very small place. So the people knew each other. The people were family with each other. And this is a continuation of a cycle that, unfortunately, I was first introduced to in 2009. So at that time, Minister Louis Farrakhan was called there to have community outreach. And what he said was that unless the community took personal responsibility for their own actions and for their own neighborhoods, this would be happening again. So here we are. But this time, back on November 6th, the students at Cedar Bridge Academy had an online, we call it a charrette, but it was an assembly where they had students from there. It was a K through 12 high school, primarily of African descent, but they partnered with a school of primarily European descent, Salters High School. And so they had all these students together. They listened to us elders for about an hour, and then we listened to them about what they wanted from the community and from ourselves. So as a result of that, the Edfu Foundation has joined with the Esteem Village and TRN to provide a virtual format every Friday so that we have our elders to focus on what we call a reset. It's a reset of hip hop, which I was introduced to in 2012 as the higher inner power helping other people by Silky D. Williams, who is a hip hop pioneer. And she's the one that was responsible for me becoming a advisory board member of the Universal Hip Hop Museum in the Bronx, New York. And later my own efforts led me to become a brand ambassador for Generation Hip Hop. But it was Ericana Chihumbari-Kwao, who was the one person representing 1.2 billion people in Africa in 2017 that approached me to find ways that we could engage the hip hop community to have a more positive impact on the children of Africa, 50% of whom are the population of which has 50% or more under the age of 30, because they felt like when they understood that it's the musical impact that influences these people. So the short answer is that every weekend we're now doing a reset. We're focusing on conscious hip hop and conscious reggae and conscious gospel, but we're doing it from the perspective of the fourth industrial revolution. And we're addressing not just STEM, but STEAM education, not just education, but also entrepreneurship, environmental awareness, and any other acronym you want to come up with to engage the youth enthusiasm to understand or participate with what we're doing. So every Friday we'll be having, next Friday I should say, we'll be having a joint event with Bermuda and the rest of the world. It'll be broadcast from the studios in Bermuda. This will be by the same producer that in 1997 launched what was called The Birth of a Trust, that gave the history of Bermuda through the lens of music. So we're working from a musical background and an entertainment background. As Michael has said, and as others have said, the only way to get our youth involved is to speak to them with a universal language. So I look forward to sharing that with you and find out ways we can perhaps work and network together going forward. So before we close out this weekend, I'll open the floor for any comments or statements or suggestions or ideas. Thank you. Well, hearing none, I'll end this weekend.
Well, this is Stephen.
Yes.
Again?
Yes.
You hear me now?
Yes, Stephen, go right ahead.
Well, yeah, I think, all right, this is a good idea. To me, I think you'll be preparing for next Friday for that meeting. I think they'll be very good for touching the connection of the world and connecting together. So I want to put a little bit my input. When I'm talking about the refugees in East Africa, myself, I've been in refugee for 14 years. I know the life of the refugees is not easy. So I'm trying for short emergency for fundraising for December 12 in 2020 in this year. We have so many special handicapped people, they lack of food in the 4 regions in the country. So I just to give you that message, and then you can share together with other link. So there be something, and then we can show our love together as a communities, the Black, white communities. So that be the info that I need, some fundraising for those refugees in December 12 in 2020. For those handicapped people live in the refugee camp, so they have no wheelchair, they have no food.
Right, so will you be doing this through your nonprofit, or what organization will be raising the money and spending it? So do you have a flyer or something that tells people about your event?
Well, I just, I want to share that thing together with you. So then if you call me after that, and then we'll give you more details.
Well, that's just it, Stephen, as I invited you here today to meet these people, and I thank you for trusting me. My point is this: there is very little I can do as an individual, but if you provide me with material that I can use to spread to my wider network, there is a lot I can do, but you have to help me to help you to help us.
Well, that this is the first time for the meeting, so I just gave that to the audience. People are listening, so and the link, and then people they can call in, we'll get all the more information.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that, but that's not really the way it works. Most of the people here represent organizations. They don't make decisions based on verbal conversations. It has to be in writing. It has to be clear. It has to be transparent. It has to be trackable. So it's only on that basis that we can move forward. But for everyone else, it looks as though we lost him. Perhaps he'll call back. But at any rate, I'm going to wind up this week's call unless there's any more information that anyone would like to share. Now it would be that time. Okay, thank you so much for joining, and I'll get the information out to Sheldon and Michael for this afternoon's meeting at 3, and I'll get this recording out to you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much and have a wonderful weekend.